because I'm using my normal mic instead of my headset mic. Probably gonna want you to change the picture for the opening, but that's fine.
Hello, everybody. It is Fight Club Hops. Welcome to another wonderful episode of GVN Live. Thank you for waiting the extra week. We decided to make you wait in anticipation of this amazing show that we're having today. Today I am joined again by Jan. There's something different about you. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what you're talking about. I got a new hoodie though,
and a haircut.
Maybe.
Contacts
Maybe.
too?
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be so weird. But yes, there is Jan, everybody. Say hi to the new and improved Jan.
I got an upgrade.
Truly, Jan has become an anime waifu.
Yay.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, in the bottom corner, as stiff as ever, there's Mr. Mark B. Writing.
Yeah, well, fuck you too, you pig fucker.
Oh. That's how you know they're friends.
So... aside, I was in the gas station convenience store today, and I noticed that that Coca-Cola has an energy drink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried this?
Yes, I have.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
It tastes very sweet, and that's about it.
It tastes like flat Coca-Cola mixed in with some mashed up Flintstones chewables.
Oh God! Why?
It's like
which flavor are you drinking? Because apparently they have 4 flavors.
Just Coke.
Yeah.
Although it was 2 for $4, so I also got the cherry flavored one. Which
the cherry flavored one I thought was pretty good.
I haven't tried yet, but I'm dreading.
Yep. So far, Coke's 0 for 2 is 0 for 1 right now with you.
Oh yeah, the Coke energy drink is just the shits. Like Red Bull made an energy cola a while ago, and that was actually pretty good. And then like Pepsi had that 1816 or whatever the fuck it was called.
That one was really good.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
I forgot about that actually.
This is just shit. Like, why would you do this?
Hey, don't forget about all those. Don't forget about those 4 variations of Mountain Dew energy drinks like Amp, and then the Mountain Dew. What do they call that? The morning
Kickstart.
The Kickstarters.
Yeah.
It's like they can't brand like so many different versions of Mountain Dew energy drinks. It's kind of funny, even though Mountain Dew is practically an energy drink on its own with like over 80 grams of caffeine in it. Or
I mean, I've had Amp. Amp is fine. Like Mountain Dew has more caffeine in it than your average soda, but
yeah, it's like 64, not 80.
Yeah,
80
it's
is
not,
like an actual energy drink.
Well,
yeah,
it's not quite energy drink Red levels, Bull is 80.
Yeah. Like I said, like I mean, I could look at a can of regular like Shasta Cola, which is pretty close to like the same thing that you get like out of a Mountain Dew. And
my friend told me Shasta makes your shit different colors.
No, only if you actually have gut problems.
Well, of course, you shouldn't be drinking Shasta then. It probably gave you the gut problems.
Most normal
Yeah, I don't-
sodas have anywhere between 35 to maybe 40 milligrams of caffeine in it at any given time.
I
That's like
thought Coca-Cola
regulated.
and Pepsi had an average of about 40 to 60 milligrams of caffeine in them. Mountain Dew is the one that has like double that.
Not even close.
All I know about Shasta is that it is the other flavor of cola.
Yeah.
Because like Coke has a unique flavor, Pepsi has a unique flavor, RC Cola has a unique flavor, and then every other cola you can ever purchase is just other, and they
Well-
all taste the fucking same.
The same, yeah. So
Like
like
if
if
you
look
could
at-
drink Shasta Cola, you could drink Great Value Cola. What the fuck is the Acme brand, Robert?
Chill.
Big K,
Chill.
chill.
Chill. You could drink
Acme's
Chill
gone
Cola.
through like 4 different like signature brand drinks. I think the latest is either Chill or it's called Signature Cola.
Yeah, either fucking way, it all tastes the goddamn same.
But like
Because
I'm looking
all
at
the
a can of
merchandise,
Monster.
because stuff like that is actually made through like one of the top 2 soda makers. Like they have a deal in place, I think, with Coca-Cola. Most of the supermarkets, they have like a store brand made for them, which is you know how these deals are usually made.
But yeah, like I said, I'm looking at a can of Monster, and a full can is 161 milligrams, which is what 83 per serving. Because technically, a tall can of Monster is
It's
2
like 2.
servings. Yeah. So like, there's no way a normal can of Mountain Dew is the same as a single serving of Monster. It's
Ladies
just
and gentlemen,
not
welcome
a
to
thing.
GVN Live. Today we're talking about your health and caffeine.
I mean, it is a gamer thing. Everyone thinks that like gaming and caffeine is pretty synonymous.
Actually, speaking of energy drinks, who remembers their first energy drink? What was your first
Red
energy
Bull.
drink? Red Bull?
Red Bull. Tastes
My
like
very
shit.
first.
Mark's going to get a good laugh out of this. He may remember this. My first one, and I was cheap at the time because I just started working at Acme. Knockoff brand, Blue Ox.
Oh God.
I have no idea what that is.
It's literally, think of at the time Red Bull. When did Red Bull come out? In the late 90s, early 2000s?
I want to say around about there.
Yeah, so I would say around 2001, 2002 is like when knockoff competitors started coming out, and Blue Ox was one of the first before I think Rockstar, became one of their major competitors, and then Monster like a couple years later. By the way, interesting story about Monster, but we'll talk about that another time. I'll tell you guys about it after the show. Just a little tidbit.
I want to say my very first actual energy drink. Does Surge count? I don't know.
Surge was
Surge
really
technically
high.
an energy drink, or it was just a really high caffeine like.
Yeah, it was their
Mountain
answer
Dew
to Mountain Dew.
replacement.
It was Coke's answer to Mountain Dew.
Okay. Then yeah, no. I think my very first thing was probably a bottle of Balls.
Balls was actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Their root beer is fantastic.
I actually haven't tried the root beer. I've had the cherry, I've had the standard, and there's like 2 other flavors besides the root beer. I can't remember what they are though.
Gotcha.
I think there's a citrus one, and I think there's a cherry one because it came in like a clear white can. I never was in a bottle though, from what I remember. But anyway, moving on.
I don't know.
Moving on, let's actually talk about, games instead of, the stuff that powers us to play our games. Tonight's episode, we are going to be discussing Jeff Keighley, a few weeks ago made the announcement that he is not going to be attending E3 for the first time since the first one back in 1995, or was it 94? And then we're going to be talking about some hot anime waifu webcam girls. And then after that, we're going to end it with a discussion about the recently revealed specs and abilities of the Xbox Series X. So this is going to be a fun, interesting show. So to start things off, we'll talk about Mr. Keighley. So one thing we actually have been about, critical about recently about Jeff Keighley, other than the fact that he's been trying his hardest to do a decent, reputable award show for gaming, and not really doing that well, but he would do these live coverages on his YouTube channel for E3 for the past 3 years, and each year it just seems to have declined in quality every year, and everybody here in this show has been very critical of that. Some more outspoken than others, and with that though, it seems like the last couple of years, people are just choosing big companies, including Sony, are just choosing not to attend. And this year, Geoff Keighley decided he's not going to attend as well. So, let's get everybody's thoughts on that before we move on to the next part of the discussion. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on this, and how significant do you think it is?
Well, it's kind of a double-sided thing, because on one hand, in a broad sense, I don't give a fuck about the goddamn Dorito Pope. And I don't think most reasonable people at this point do.
Fair.
But on the other hand, I do very much think that it probably will have an actual impact for E3 as it is. Because how do I put this? So E3 is kind of a thing that has evolved beyond being like a trade show into being sort of a spectacle, sort of a Ringling Brothers for video gaming in a lot of respects. And while trade shows generally live and die on the content that is provided, E3 very much lived and died on the spectacle. And as more and more people publicly just sort of disavow the show, that's going to kind of either cut down on the spectacle or like have sort of a negative effect on the spectacle of what E3 is or what it is supposed to be. And like I don't see that being beneficial for anyone. Like the idea of Geoff Keighley not going to E3 in a vacuum is like, oh no, you know, like this Dorito Pope motherfucker isn't going to be going to the thing. Boo fuckity hoo. But by the same token, it's kind of like it is a harbinger of bad things. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's like you have all these gaming personalities, both from internet, from print, to former TV, to YouTubers, going to E3, and to be truthfully honest, probably the biggest name out of all of these guys combined is Geoff Keighley. And when you've got one of the biggest named guys suddenly deciding, you know what, I'm going to pass this year, y'all. That's kind of not a good vibe.
Like Geoff Keighley exists to be video games. There is no other way of expressing it. His entire existence is video games.
Yeah.
If Geoff Keighley were not doing this, he would be doing nothing. Like, and I'm not, as much as we joke about like, oh, haha, Dorito Pope, I'm not trying to dunk on the man here. Legitimately, this is his career. He is a video games person. Even more so than like a games journalist, he is a personality who exists to be video games. So the idea that he's like, you know what? Nah, I'm good on this thing should probably be making the people running E3 shit themselves. Because if that guy doesn't want to be at your show, fuck you.
Right?
So
it's a little scary.
What are your thoughts on that, Jan? I mean, starting off with it's scary.
It's scary because, like, he's always been there, so to have him not be there is kind of weird. But
like having a presence that's always around, and suddenly you walk in and realize it's not there.
Kinda. It's like, I feel like the analogy that I could probably use for it is like it's like a good burrito. You used to go into this place that you've gone to for like 10 years and they have like the fucking best burrito. But then all of a sudden you start realizing that like people changing and new chefs and the burrito isn't as tasty anymore. And then you find new burritos somewhere else and then you're kind of like, "Oh, they took that burrito off the menu from that old place." Eh, I guess that's not a big loss anymore. It kind of sucked now anyway.
A burrito analogy. That's
I mean,
that's some
if
classy
you
stuff right there.
well, I mean, it's like
I mean, it makes sense. Absolutely.
food is like a good analogy when it comes to video games because if you think about like restaurants and quality control and things like that, you've got to understand that like the way these kind of things were supposed to be run was kind of the same concept where the show was about what the games were and not just like the flair. The flair was like icing basically, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you get to the point where the restaurant's still there, and some of the food's still kind of good, but at the same time, it's not the same anymore. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's other new restaurants that have come up in the area that taste better. It's the same kind of thing as there are other game shows. You know, that's a weird. Anyway, not what I meant. Not like Price is Right. But like there are other shows that happen that showcase video games, like TGS, which is getting more limelight than in previous years. You've got Gamescom, which is getting bigger. You've got C2E2. You've got fucking what was the other one we were just talking about it?
Leipzig, but that one ended.
No,
there's
no,
GDC.
no. GDC, thank you. Like GDC is still
and even
like,
CES still has a section dedicated to video games.
A
small section,
yeah. I mean, seeing as E3 kind of started there, it's kind of like fitting, but at the same time, it's like you really think about what's going on, and then you kind of look at what Jeff had done, like Mark said, it's his career. This is his career. So the fact that this guy who has been there since inception.
Jan, where'd you go?
And there goes her internet.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, hopefully she'll get her internet fixed. But
Yeah.
Are you there, Jan?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to finish your thought, or shall we just move on?
Well, the baseline is just the fact that Jeff not being there is kind of a big deal for like industry standard people because like he's been there since inception. So to have him not there, while again is like, oh, we don't have to deal with Jeff. I guess that's not bad. It's the same kind of idea. Well, it's like I don't have to deal with Jeff, but at the same time, there's people from the industry who are like, oh, Jeff, you're not actually going to be there. That's disappointing. So, I mean, and that's genuine, too. Like, people are genuinely sad that he's not going to be there. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been seeing this for the last few years. Like, companies have just been looking at E3, and they're just like, we'll just do our own thing, or we're going to pass on it. Nintendo was probably the first big omission. I mean, yeah, they still show up to the event and have a booth for you to check out all their latest games and whatnot, but that's it outside of their presence. They don't do a stage presentation or a conference anymore. They now just regulate their E3 like business to, their directs. And they release those every couple of months or so. Some are game specific, some are universal. And then you had Sony, which was the next big company that decided, you know what, we're good. We'll do something else. And now you got a couple of the major players of E3 gone. And now you got a major player in the journalism side of the video game industry leaving E3, deciding to just pass it by. So that just shows that E3 just doesn't seem to be that amazing of a destination anymore when it comes to video games as a trade show. And it's kind of been on the downturn for the last 10 years. I would say it's when they started changing their policy in regards to how companies can promote themselves, starting as far back as the Booth Babe rule and allowing only certain people to come into the trade show, and then suddenly backtracking on that and then letting everybody into the trade show. So it's like they have been consistent in how they want to run their show. And with that, every passing year, it just seems like it just hasn't been that amazing. There's been less amazing reveals for the show and most of these reveals are actually being held again, like for some of the mini trade shows that you've mentioned, like TGS or Gamescom or GDC, or for the Direct that Nintendo does. Like all the reveals are being done like somewhere else. So like, what other reasons are the cause of E3's demise besides what I've just already mentioned? What do you think, Jan?
Oversaturation. Like E3 is synonymous with big reveals. Like it's been that way for over a decade. Like if you were like reading EGM or GamePro back in the 90s, E3 was like they've always said it, video game Christmas, Like it's Christmas in July, it's Christmas in the summertime for video games because we've got all of these extra reveals coming out, and you get all the new screenshots, and then all of the new interviews, and all this other crazy stuff that was coming.
Everybody was running to their mailbox within the first couple of weeks of July, waiting for that E3 edition magazine.
Well, with the advent of faster internet, streaming services like Twitch and Mixer and YouTube,
and at one point G4.
Well,
I mean, Tech TV and G4.
We can touch on that.
We can touch on that briefly, but
yeah, like Tech TV and G4 having their thing was like weird for a while because it was like we get it live on actual television, but it didn't really like legitimize anything. It was really like, but I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I don't personally feel like the whole idea of what they were trying to do was like right, I guess. Anyway, the thing about it was that with the advent of like over the last, I don't know, 5-6 years maybe, things have like grown like almost exponentially in terms of these kinds of big reveal shows, with a lot of the Japanese developers holding off a lot of really big announcements for TGS, and TGS getting more like exposure outside of where like years ago, like you'd have to wait for the Famitsu articles, or you'd have to wait for people to like translate the magazines and like the fan stuff online from Japan before you got any of that info. And even then, you'd get maybe 20% of what they were talking about at TGS overseas. Now TGS is global, which is huge for a lot of people because TGS used to be such a closed environment. Gamescom is relatively newer, and it's still getting more play than E3. At least I want to say it kind of did last year anyway. And then you've got like all of these like smaller mini reveals that are happening throughout the year from companies like Sony and Nintendo, where they're doing like Nintendo Directs or PlayStation State of Play. Not like that's any better, but whatever.
And then you also have reveals at stuff like the Video Game Awards show, like where Microsoft decided to reveal the Xbox Series X.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing too is like I'm like Sony isn't going to reveal primary PlayStation 5 stuff around E3 time. If they do anything, it's probably going to be within the next month or two, and it's going to be like any state of play. It's not going to be anything big. It's just going to be something on Twitter, something on Facebook.
And there goes Jan again.
Maybe we should have put it off for another week. Jesus.
Maybe give her a chance to fix her internet before we can
hey.
the show.
Blah. Anyway, sorry. I've got a like tier 3 supervisor tech who's been like watching my connection, and it's like he saw big spikes, so hopefully I'll hear something back from him before tomorrow. That would be nice.
Tier 3 supervisor, what, for your job or?
No, for my internet service provider, my ISP. Like I've gone all the way up to like the top end soup. Like I'm at the supervisor right now because I've had so many complaints about my connection failing like this. And this is something that's been happening like nightly now. 7 to like 10, my connection just eats shit, and I have no idea why. I think I have some idea, but the baseline is I don't know why it does this, and it's really starting to piss me off.
You don't have somebody
They're
siphoning
like,
your internet, do you?
absolutely not. The thing about it is like the fucking it's something internal in its apology. Something like either the router that we've got in the living room is causing a feedback issue where it's actually sending like noise back on the line and is causing drop packets, or I'm just, for some strange reason, the network in the area is just eating shit because CenturyLink's a piece of fuck. So what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because CenturyLink likes to go out to the box every couple of weeks and fuck around with the cables, so who knows what the hell they're doing out there.
Yep. But to continue on with what you were saying before you cut out.
TLDR, all of the other game shows that are out there have created this oversaturation of the market for these kind of large show reveals, and like companies have started to realize, especially like the big companies and the like well-known game production companies have started to like just do mini reveals on their Facebook or on their YouTube channel or on Twitch because it's more lucrative and they'll get more eyes on what it is that they want to see by viral marketing and Twitter and YouTube videos than they ever have in the last, I don't know, 3 years, maybe 4 years of just doing large trade shows like that. Waiting once or twice a year to push this stuff out is like, it's too old school at this point, and they're trying to change with the times. And I really feel like it's not so much that it's E3's fault that this keeps happening. I think this is the landscape now.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, what do you think E3 is doing wrong in trying to reattract people? Because, like you said, they're kind of like a circus, and they're just there for the spectacle, and it just seems like the spectacle is losing its luster, and they're just trying new things to bring people back, and it doesn't seem to be working. What are your thoughts?
So I feel like the big problem with E3 was that they kind of started chasing the almighty dollar as far as the whole thing went. Like, we started to see bigger and bolder sets coming in. Like, the 2 years that I went, just the set dressing was fucking absurd. And it was to impress media types, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting into the situation where I'm walking into this whole to-do for Bethesda that is literally done up to look like the environments of Fallout New Vegas, complete with like a giant dinosaur head and all this shit. And it's like, who are you trying to impress? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not trying to impress the average gamer, and you're not going to impress me because I'm not here to see all the hoopla. So there was a certain idea around it where it was being presented as kind of its own spectacle. And at some point during this process, like, everything involved in it just became more and more expensive for everybody involved. So all of a sudden you start seeing stuff where, oh, now we're going to start selling tickets to the general public. So now you've got all of these game companies who are like, fuck, now we have to actually market to the general public. But then it starts being a thing where, because they're selling tickets to the general public, they also start becoming more restrictive on what they will allow you to see for press access. Like, I don't think we, as a part of what Die Hard Game Fan is at this point, assuming that the site was still updated, I don't think we'd be able to get nearly as many passes as we used to get, because we used to get like 3 or 4 passes a year. And I know that because the 2 years that I went, somebody else went, and John Widrow would go. I don't think we could. I think we could maybe get a pass at this point. 2 years ago, Hamish from Writing on Games got 2 passes, one for him and one for group cohort Nico Blakely, to follow him around and record stuff. Last year he couldn't get anything, or the year before last he couldn't get anything. I don't know if he could have gotten anything for last year, but like he didn't even try at that point.
Yeah, I think they keep changing. I think they keep changing their requirements or parameters for journalists journalist pass, because it seems like it seems like it was ludicrous at one point. Like you had to have a certain number of credentials before you could finally be accepted now, and now they've doubled those credentials.
Right. And here's the thing: if your business model is designed around getting the kind of exposure that E3 offers, the folks from E3 are making the bargain.
You're fine, don't worry.
Okay. Fucking over here breaking shit.
Right?
But they're making the bargain that you will still pay money to show up at this thing. Like, they're looking at it from the perspective of somebody who is large enough that their being at E3 will still matter, like an Angry Joe or a GameSpot or whatever can get in because, oh, well, you've got like millions of fucking viewers. Obviously, we don't want to cut you out. But somebody who's got like 100,000 viewers, they're making the assumption that it is financially more important for you to invest money into a pass to get in there, as just like, on a consumer thing, on just like paying to be part of the general public, and that you'll be willing to do that because they're not making whatever amount of money they need to be making to make this viable for them. So it's kind of the GameStop problem to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It started becoming less and less financially viable for them, and instead of figuring out a way to make it financially viable, they added in new revenue streams, and now they're trying to fuck other people into paying into those revenue streams under the assumption that these people have to do it. And motherfucker, no, we don't. People are just going to stop giving a shit about E3. Or they're just going to fucking crib off of the relevant details that they can crib off of from other people talking about it. Like, there was a time where I would have tried to go to E3, but now, fuck off. I'm not even going to be bothered. I am not part of any organization that would get me a pass in there, and I would not want to go in with the general public. Because as bad as it was going in as a press person, it would be a million times worse going in just as a member of the general public. You would see nothing in a day. Like, there were periods when I went in when it was just press where you would be in line for an hour to see something for Call of Duty or to try out a Dark Souls or whatever. Imagine how bad that would be with every douchebag with $100 being in the same line. Like, if you've been to Otakon, it's like that. And I don't even need to be there to know what it's like. I can vividly recall the smells, okay? I've been to fucking Wizard World. I've been to fucking Otakon. I have enough exposure to that sort of thing to say, no, a video game trade show where you are announcing important things should not be this. Like, people don't announce shit at Otakon. People don't announce shit at Wizard World. People don't announce shit at PAX. Well, except for the tabletop PAX, because that's actually respectable within the tabletop community. But Like, video game people generally are not going to be announcing shit at PAX. Like, this is not a respectable venue for a video game developer to be releasing their shit. This is something that they show off, like the little, the circus stuff, so people can gawk at it and ooh and ah. E3 should not have ever become that, and now that it has become that, they're rapidly in the position where they're still trying to maintain the clout that they had as a trade show whilst also trying to become a convention. And you can't do that. Like, you can't
One
be
or
an
the
E3
other.
trade show and a convention at the same time. That kind of sort of can happen in the movie industry, but
Right.
the movie industry is showing off stuff that's like 30 seconds long and you don't got to interact with shit. Like, you file 5,000 people into a fucking room and show them a trailer. That's literally all they were expecting. That fulfills the requirement of what it is that they came here to see. For video games, people want like a half an hour to an hour with that game. And they're basically telling you, if you're not GameSpot or IGN, fuck you, wait in line for 2 hours to get these impressions. No, I'm not going to do that. It is much easier, especially if you live in an area where there's reasonable access. I could fucking go to Bandai Namco tomorrow and be like, hey, when's your next showcase that you're going to do something in New York? And, that comes with its own caveats and problems, i.e. having to be in close proximity to Hip Hop Gamer. But I feel like that is less bad than having to be in a room that smells like Gargamel's ball sack.
Wow. Wow.
Listen, I've been to fucking cons, okay?
They're same.
They stink.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's like a hygiene problem. It's just, you put like 2,000 people in a substandardly air-conditioned room, it stinks.
Very specific reference. There's a story that needs sharing.
No, it's just, I just, imagine Gargamel, imagine what his balls smell like. That's what Otakon smells like at all times.
Which do you think smells worse, Smash Brothers Tournament or Otakon?
Yes.
Yes.
Again, it's like, I'm sure there's, for some small amount of people, there's probably hygiene issues, but honestly, you cram 2,000 motherfuckers into a convention center with substandard air conditioning, it's just gonna stink.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even at E3, which is like, we were surrounded by professionals in the industry, the smells were not great.
Mm-mm.
And I know for a fact, like, I can see these people, I know for a fact they know what hygiene is. They know how to fucking wash themselves. You've just got bodies everywhere who are there for 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. By the end of the day, you're fucking rank. It's just how it is.
All right. Well, in conclusion, E3 is not what it used to be. Jeff Keighley has decided to say, nah, bro, I'm good. I'm going to pass this year. And
I don't know if there's a way you could ever get E3 back to where it used to be, because you can't put the genie back in the bottle without taking a financial hit, and I don't think they're in a financial position to take
a financial hit. Exactly.
No. At this point, it's like either they have to continue doing what they're doing and hope, good fortune comes their way, or they close up shop.
Yeah, and it's the fact that it's becoming easier and easier for video game companies to directly market to the gamers. Trade shows are becoming less and less of a thing that matters for developers and publishers.
But there is one thing that trade shows still have that online shows like Direct or PlayStation whatever can do. It's that it gives you the ability to interact with the games and judge for yourself while on a showroom floor, whereas you can't really do that. All you get is maybe 1 to 2 minutes of gameplay footage.
Sure, but
demo footage or in-game engine like demonstrations, which could be, altered in many ways. So that's one thing the trade show has over these things.
Yeah, but I mean, there's two caveats to that. Caveat one is you're making the assumption that the people reading these things trust the people who are playing these demonstrations. Well, actually, three caveats. You're making the assumption that the people who are playing these things trust the people who are making these demonstrations, which, let me tell you, unless you are, like, if you're playing something like the new Zelda, unless you're, like, rim jobbing that game, people who are showing up in the comments are going to be telling you, the person who actually played that fucking game, fuck you, you're wrong, when they've never touched it. So, in and of itself, like, that's not super compelling. Two, if you are of an organization that is large enough, you can just pay somebody to fucking go there and test it, like, on campus. And if you're of a smaller organization, again, a lot of companies just host shit where they're like, hey, show up here in New York to play these, like, 12 games for an hour. You know, I've done that for multiple different companies. They still do it, even though I'm not fucking writing anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And three, if companies were smarter, they would just leverage demos to resolve that problem. Like, Resident Evil 3 is getting a demo.
Yep.
Langrisser 2 got a demo. Langrisser 1 and 2 got a demo. I did not fucking expect Langrisser 1 and 2 to get a demo. I installed that. I haven't played it yet. Like, I literally am going to fucking play that.
I mean,
like,
the game
as soon
releases
as we
in
are
like
done
a week
here.
or two, so...
Yeah, like, I'm going to play that as soon as we get done here, because it's just like, I want to try it. But it's like, you know, if more developers leverage demos, we wouldn't even fucking need that shit.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You would not need to give a room full of journalists access to this so that they can tell people what they think about the game. You would just hand to fucking gamer. You know?
Bring back demo discs.
Well, not only that, like, we're also seeing situations where stuff is being kind of crowdsourced as it relates to getting impressions. So, you know, you're getting fucking beta tests. There was just a beta test for that. I think once it was Bleeding Edge or whatever that game is that Ninja Theory is making on the Xbox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that game just had a demo weekend. Phantasy Star Online just had a demo weekend. Again, Resident Evil 3 is getting a demo probably within the next couple of weeks before the game comes out. Like, all of this stuff is specifically meant to give people an opportunity to see what the game is like and get them hyped for it. I would not be surprised if we start seeing less and less trade shows and more direct marketing to gamers by giving them a 20-minute sample of a game.
Be good. It'd be nice, actually. So So there we go. I mean, that's pretty much all we have to say, unless there's any final thoughts from either of you.
I would actually take it a step further and say that you could probably just, like, make demonstration downloads available to the press. And so it still removes the need for trade shows, but still gives the press a role that they can fulfill in this whole song and dance. So, you know, Sony doesn't have to fucking go out to Los Angeles and set up, like, this fucking circus sideshow of shit to show off to people. They can just be like, hey, person who works for Destructoid, here, like, what's your fucking PSN username? Boom, we just sent you this demo of this game that's like an hour long. Play it and tell us what you think. Write a fucking article on it or whatever. You don't even need fucking demo copies. You don't even need machines that can play demonstration stuff, though it probably will help. You just fucking send something to their PSN username. Boom, they download it. They try out the demo. Then they write an article about it. It massively cuts out the middleman and massively cuts out the expense. Everybody profits except for people who run shit like E3.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's about it for that topic right there. So let's move on to a lighter topic of fun and wonderment. Jan, this one's all yours. Please tell us about the future being now.
Well, since we're talking about digital distribution, right, we might as well talk about something that's been pretty heavily talked about over the last couple of weeks.
Digital titties!
Yeah, pretty much. So
We just got
for
demonetized.
yeah, that's your fault.
Like I was ever going to make money off of a damn episode with you two involved.
Fair.
But continue.
Anyway, so over the last couple of weeks, I think it's been 18 days. Shock, because she keeps track of that stuff. There has been a bit of a virtual sexual revolution over on a adult site. Yeah, so Project Melody is a thing. Started off as a sort of a side project and grew into something that not a lot of people actually thought was going to be a big deal, and turned out to be a absolutely massive deal for a lot of people. Now, I have friends in the industry, in the adult industry, and a lot of them are of the mind that this is good. But then you've got a lot of people who say that it's not, and that this is bad, and that anime titties are gonna ruin the world. And it's like, y'all just jealous because you've only got 20 people in your channel, and she broke 10K her first 2 nights on this stupid website.
Well, hold on. Before we get into all of that, pretend I don't have any idea what the fuck you're talking about. What is Project Melody?
Project
Melody first,
Melody
before we get into Project Melody, we need to talk about the stuff that's preceded Project Melody, and that is the virtual AIs type of thing. The virtual. Yeah, go on.
Think Kizuna Ai.
Yep.
With actual titty.
Sure,
she just freezes on that.
Sure, but okay, let's take it a step further. Pretend I don't know what Kizuna Ai is.
Okay, Kizuna Ai is one of the first of many virtual YouTubers, which are motion captured CG anime characters that are pretty much depicted with, motion capture technology, and it's just overlaying like games that they are playing or whatnot, or it makes videos doing all kinds of weird stuff.
Right. And
Kizuna Ai is one of the most popular virtual YouTubers right now. In fact, she actually makes music now and performs at concerts and stuff like that.
Well, so that's actually kind of the concept behind what this is all about. If you really want to get back to the basics, Hatsune Miku was kind of the very beginning of a lot of this. The Vocaloid movement, and having a 3D avatar of this person to actually do live concerts in front of actual human beings. This is kind of the same concept, only it's porn. But it sort of just naturally evolved. You started with Hatsune Miku and the Vocaloid. It moved to using, live 2D, which is me. And it moved from there to a more 3D space utilizing real-time rendering in Unity. So there's physical input coming from a actual AI, and that's basically what Project Melody is. It's kind of the 18 plus culmination of all of this 3D virtual avatar kind of VTuber style of ideas. It's interesting too, because like, if you really think about why this is what it is, there are a lot of people that are, obviously upset about this kind of stuff, because it's like, oh no, anime has taken over my porn, and it's public, and it's popular. You never would have thought that would have been a thing, but in 2020, the year of our Lord, we live in a timeline where there's a virtual anime girl who is getting the most views on this specific website, has a Twitch channel with over, I think, 10,000 followers already, and she's never even broadcast on the system yet. So
she will break the system the day she does go on.
I guess. I don't know. I think like there's still a lot of interest in what she does on the actual site that she's on traditionally, that I think she might just do all of the things that she would normally have done just all on that site as well. So all of the content that she may actually do on Twitch may just end up on that site anyway. But the idea behind what this is and kind of why it's significant is because there is a large, well, not large, but there's a vocal minority of women and some men on that site specifically and on some other sites that are being very boisterous, very vocal about how this is taking away from their business and how this is bad for people because it's, oh no, anime, that's not a real girl, you're just a degenerate. I don't know about that. I feel like there's plenty of people like, and for what it's credit to, the YouTube channel Lost Pause actually did an actual interview with Project Melody recently. I don't know that he's actually aired it yet, but I know that he did an interview because he was talking about it on Twitter a couple of days ago.
Probably has to take the time to censor it.
She was fully clothed the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Was he talking to the actual person behind Melody?
No, he was talking to Project Melody is Project Melody. It is an AI just like Kizuna Ai. There is no quote-unquote person behind the camera. It is an artificial intelligence that does what it does.
Kizuna Ai actually has a motion capture body. Like, there's actually someone motion.
Dude.
Hello.
Dude.
What? Dude.
It's fucking pro wrestling, okay?
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
The
Well,
Kayfabe.
Fine.
We know there's an actual person behind it. That isn't the fucking point.
The point is that he had a conversation with Project Melody, the character, the AI.
Okay.
There were articles within the first week of her going live from, I want to say, Vice and Kotaku. I don't remember the other
I'm so
one.
shocked.
Well, yeah. No, it was Wired. Excuse me. I lied. It was Wired. So Wired and Vice both did actual stories, like editorial stories on Project Melody after the first week of her actually being live on the site. And yeah, they're bad. Because you can tell, well, and it's silly too, because you can tell that the people who wrote these articles both have no real idea what anime is outside of Dragon Ball Z, and they don't really understand. Well, yeah, but you understand what I'm saying when I say that, by basically saying that these guys are not part of the ideal of the culture. This isn't something that they use as a hobby. This is something that they use to report. And so because of that, there's a lot of misunderstandings and or things that they actually say in their articles that are really? Why would you say words in that sentence structure? Because that just makes you sound ignorant. And like I said, the basic gist is that there are some people from the site and from other sites as well that say that they've quote-unquote lost business because of this character, because this is something that only degenerates watch, or only the people that really are only interested in anime and not really in real women are actually only going to watch this. Well, I mean, 10,000 people don't lie. Being that she is and was, I think she still is, the number one model on the site because of the fact that she is not only as hyped as she is on Twitter, but because she has basically gotten free publicity within the first week of her actually going live because of all of this. People bitching and moaning about, oh, anime, it's bad for the business, I don't understand it. And it's really silly because the other girls that I know that are actually in sex work are like, this doesn't affect us at all. We have regulars, we have people who are going to come and watch our shows, and it's fine. The thing about Project Melody is that Melody handles her stream very professionally. I mean, albeit with adult content, but hey, what are you going to do? But she interacts with the chat like a lot. And when you've got a very mildly moderated chat channel with 10,000 people scrolling chat, she had to. So an unpaid membership is known as a gray username because you have a gray name and you can only just generally chat. So in order for you to be able to do anything beyond just chat, like tip or get private messaging or other things that would be considered, one-on-one, you can only do if you have a paid membership. So by paid membership, you have to actually have a membership, purchase tokens, and then actually tip the model.
You're slow down. I need to take notes.
You're awful.
No, he's married.
Look, you can take a look at the menu. You just got to eat at home, right?
Yeah.
So the idea here, though, is that because the channel has become so popular in such a rapid amount of time, they've actually had to block gray users. So unless you're actually tipping or are an actual logged in user, you can't comment in her chat anymore. So it's kind of like always being in sub-only mode on Twitch. So the baseline is that because she's become so rapidly popular, there's a lot of these girls who are like, only getting like 5 or 10 or 20 people in their channel on a regular basis who, let's be honest, don't really do much. They kind of just do their thing, get their rocks off, and then that's their show for like 2 hours. Melody streams between 3 to 4 hours and has breaks and then comes back for another 3 to 4 hours. So she does like an afternoon show and an evening show. And, when you're getting that large collective amount of people and she's being interactive as much as possible by talking to the chats, interacting, having fun, playing games, joking, it kind of... It looks bad for a lot of those people that are saying, oh, this is bad. This is going to be a bad thing. This is an awful thing to have happen. She should be banned. This isn't really part of the terms of service. If you actually look at the terms of service on the site, there are 2 things that you 100% must have, or you cannot do the 2 most important things on the channel, which is receive tips and do private, which is basically where you take either a passworded show for a small group of people or a one-on-one show with a specific individual.
If you go to a strip club, you go into the couch room.
Exactly. It's like the difference between getting like a lap dance and going to the private room. Well, the thing is that in order for you to be able to do that, you have to show a legal ID. And not just a legal ID, but you have to physically have a picture of you holding that identification card. The very first day she started, she even told everybody in the chat, and as part of the actual thing, is that she is in contact with the staff of the site, and they are in full support of the channel. So she has gone through all of the proper legal channels to make this channel a reality, and not just have it get shut down in 1 or 2 days. The fact that she's been going for almost 3 weeks is sort of an attest to that.
I mean, you look at it from the perspective of, like, you step out of kayfabe for a second.
Right.
Whoever's running this obviously is of legal age to do it.
Yes.
Whoever is running this obviously has provided documentation to the owners of Chatterbait or whatever other sites that she is performing on, showing that she is of legal age to do this.
Yes.
We don't need to know anything else about Project Melody beyond that.
Beyond that, it is what it is. Everything at face value is what it is and what is being presented, and there should be no real reason for you to question that. But there are some
the pornographic equivalent of drill.
Yeah, basically.
Like, here's the thing: people have tried to dox drill. I don't want to know who drill is.
Nobody
drill
does.
Is drill. Drill is drill. Project Melody is Project Melody. It's,
Exactly.
you know, speaking as somebody who derives joy from knowing the kayfabed, like the shoot shit about professional wrestling.
Right.
Sometimes you don't need to have that veil
You
pulled
don't
back,
need the back. Yeah, you don't.
and having the veil pulled back often doesn't make the
It just
scenario
makes
more
it worse.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Having the veil pulled back might actually even ruin the experience for you sometimes.
Oh yeah, knowing that John Cena is a piece of
Yeah.
shit is not conducive to me wanting to continue watching John Cena be a professional wrestler. Knowing that CM Punk is a piece of shit is not conducive to me wanting to continue to watch CM Punk be a professional wrestler. It's like and you know, a large portion of us kind of are in the position where, like, for some people that's a desirable thing, right? You know, tabloids exist for a reason. But
Right.
for some of us, we want to keep the magic alive. So
Right.
the idea of, well, Project Melody is, you know, a girl, like a digital virtual girl, is like, okay, that's all I really need to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, putting it in the same perspective as, like, you know, the physical models who exist out there doing similar content. Like, you know, we all on a fundamental level know Amaranth is married.
Right.
Because, especially because that was like turned into a whole huge thing with like one of her fucking mods, like fucking made a big to do about that, which was fucking stupid, but whatever. You know, we all know that like Amaranth is married. We all know that like the majority of the beautiful cosplayers who exist out there are in long-term committed relationships or are married.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't prevent you from fucking, you know, jerking the chicken to whatever content they may have posted out there. You know, it's sort of the unspoken rule of parasocial relationships in this modern era. So this is just kind of the logical next step of that.
Right.
And I don't think there's really a problem there, especially because so there was this young lady I used to know. We weren't super big friends or anything, but she worked at a convenience store near my office. And when I was getting done with work, I would stop into the convenience store and I would get like a cup of coffee at 11 o'clock at night because I was fucking stupid. And well, I also didn't go to bed until like 4 o'clock in the morning because my shift was like 2 to 11. But you know, I would go in there and I would bullshit with her for like half an hour or whatever because it was fucking empty. And eventually we were in conversation with one another and she reveals to me that she does cam shows.
Okay.
She's an attractive lady.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll check this out, I guess. Have you ever seen a person who is deeply attractive and you are just utterly bored by the idea of them naked?
Yes.
That is what this was. It was just the most boring shit.
Oh God.
Like what was I going to say to this person? You know, like,
yikes,
your cam shows are boring and they suck. You know, like,
yeah.
And the problem is that like for a lot of people who are kind of at the beginning level, that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
You know, you're not presenting any type of a show that anybody wants to see. You're just, you know, nude in a beige bedroom with terrible fucking lighting.
A really shitty webcam, a really loud microphone and keyboard, and
all you're doing is fucking
thing.
All you're fucking doing is playing with the man in the boat for an hour.
Yep.
And you're not even interesting about it.
And you don't interact. That's like the worst part. You just kind of do the thing, have fun with yourself, and then like shut off, and then be like, "Why don't I make any money?"
Yeah, like
I wonder why.
Yeah, like erotic content creators in general, like major erotic content creators in general, I guarantee you are not shitting bricks.
No, not at all.
About somebody like a Project Melody. You know,
not at all.
I can't think of anybody who is presently active at the moment. My default response would have been like a swimsuit succubus or something like that, but
right.
She retired to be a Twitch streamer.
Fair.
So I can't really think of anybody like I guess Amaranth does
Yeah,
not
that
give a
sounds
fuck.
about right.
Amaranth does not give a fuck
Yeah.
about this.
Former model or porn star Mia Khalifa tried doing Twitch for a while. And that lasted, I guess, her for all of a week or something like that.
Yeah, I mean she has a
Yeah.
career. Good for her.
Yeah.
Like her career does not revolve around her sexuality. So again, it's not the same thing. Like we're specifically looking for people for whom their sexuality is a leveraged part of their career or the content that they
Right.
make. So like Mia Khalifa's retired from doing that kind of stuff, and by all indications, it sucked doing it anyway. So like,
Mm.
I wouldn't, she
Yeah.
wouldn't give a shit regardless. Um, but like I can't really think of anybody who makes that sort of content at the moment. Like a Vivid Vidka, let's say,
Fair.
does not give a fuck about this
No.
because the content that she is making is still drawing in, you know, whatever amount of money
Couple
it's drawing
thousand
in for her.
people.
Yeah,
Couple thousand
like
people and a couple, $2, $3, $4,000. Like it is what it is.
right. It's good that this thing is popular, but it's a novelty, and as a person who is deeply committed to making this novelty
Absolutely.
work for however long they choose to do it,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm sure somebody else will come out with a more novel version of it, but it's essentially like Source Forge Maker films. You know,
Right.
Source Forge Maker films cater to a very specific demographic of people who want to see Tracer getting fucked,
Yeah.
but they're not giving porn a run for its money.
No.
Like pornographic actors and actresses are not concerned because somebody's rendering the characters from World of Warcraft getting pounded in the butt. Nobody fucking cares. It's an entirely separate demographic that markets to itself. It's a different group of people who have different tastes and want this particular thing. This character is not drawing away from your content. Your content just sucks.
Exactly.
So
Like if we
moving
were
on.
seeing a market like drop off or decline in metrics, if these people could show that they were losing subscribers, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but no, your content is just bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah. So obviously, people who are complaining about this are people who really suck at their job as cam models. And
I'm sure that
probably
there are
also
some
the same
people
people
who
who
are
are kicking
probably.
themselves in the ass for like, wow, I could have come up with this idea, but they never did. So somebody
I'm
beat them
sure
to the
that there
punch.
are people who are probably doing successfully, probably doing well, who are
Yeah.
just concerned about what it means. Like these are people who
Right.
probably live hand to mouth as far as this sort of thing goes. Like this is their
Mm-hmm.
career. It's like the people who are just at the level of being partnered on Twitch. Where anytime a new person comes in who's big and popular, it's like I'm just barely making enough money to scrape by. Could this fuck me?
Right.
And for those people, probably not. It really depends on what sort of niche you're marketing towards. But I don't think the people who are going to Project Melody would have come to you regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the people who are worried about it are people who just, who aren't doing particularly well and just feel like this content is drawing eyes away from a product that people were never looking at to begin with.
Exactly. I think kind of in closing for this whole thing too is like to that effect, like a lot of the people that are getting upset about this or were like going to the news outlets about this are in such a state that it's exactly like you said. It's like either your content was just bad or you were kind of just in a position where you probably just are a little bit jealous over the fact that they actually are doing way better right out of the gate, not just because of the novelty of it, but also because there's obviously passion behind what it is that she's doing. There is a drive and a want to be popular in this medium, and you know good for her because that that really does change the landscape, and it's just going to be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next couple of years because of it.
So speaking of the landscape, though, so we've seen this entire thing evolve, from Tupac at Coachella to Hatsune Miku to Kazunya Ai to Project Melody. What's next? Do we have any
Presumably
ideas?
holograms that dance in my living room.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, are we getting to that point yet, or is the technology gonna lag behind?
It is going to take like 10 years. Probably we're closer to VR being an actual thing where, like, you have like a VR model that dances for you or whatever. Hologram projectors are still incredibly expensive.
Very, and I'll attest to that because there is a small company in Japan, that actually has a product that allows you to create a 3D holographic interactable waifu, basically. The first generation of the device came out in 2016.
Are we talking about that little?
Yes.
Okay.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. That's sort of
now having
the
a
next
Hatsune
step.
Miku model.
Well, yeah, but that's because they updated the software. Well, the firmware and the device itself had to be upgraded, and it was actually kind of silly because there was actually a large outcry for the people that have had the original version of it that basically got told, hey, the service for the first version of the hardware that you have is being shut down, so we're going to give you the second generation of this hardware and an updated version of the waifu of your choice for free because you've been such a dedicated purchaser. And we didn't really foresee the technology that we needed to update being something that would absolutely antiquate your system this fast. So we apologize. Here's a new waifu.
I just can't believe that there's some 35-year-old otaku in Japan who now has a hologram trapped in his room of a 16-year-old girl as his waifu. It's just
look.
I mean, different strokes for different folks.
You gotta understand, though, in Japan,
I know, different cultural thing, age of consent is different, all that other stuff.
It's a little different over there culturally, but baseline.
I mean, culture is different everywhere. I mean, you can go to Saudi Arabia and they can take your wife and marry her off. They don't give a fuck.
We're not talking about that. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a cultural thing, but moving on.
The technology is what we're talking about here.
Yes.
The technology for something like what we're looking at as far as the next steps in something like this already does exist, while it is still infantile in like what it actually is. It is sort of what we're going to start seeing kind of evolve. I feel like the VR space is definitely going to be the first major next step, but having these small personal holograms inside your house is definitely not that far off. I give it 5 years before we really start seeing a lot of big changes in that front.
Okay. Well, so moving on, we need to wrap this show up soon, so let's hurry up and get to the next topic. Let's talk about Xbox Series X and PS5 and all the nifty features that have been revealed lately. Mark, would you like to start us off about what Microsoft decided to show us a couple of days ago?
Nope, I didn't read a goddamn thing.
Okay, then I'll just let you know what's going on. So, recently Microsoft did a whole pamphlet release. Well, not a pamphlet release, but they decided to release the specs of the Xbox One. Apparently, the sucker is going to be up to 12 teraflops of something or another, which apparently is a really big deal to some people. They're trying to force the games to run natively at 120 frames a second. They have this awesome feature, which I think is pretty good, because it's a long-term thing, so it might bite them in the ass in the beginning, but it's going to probably pay out for them. They have this thing where you only have to buy one copy of a game, and you should be able to play that on any system you want. You can play it on your Xbox One, and it will be optimized to play on your Xbox One. But if you get your Xbox Series X, it will then re-optimize itself so that it will play on the Xbox Series X. Or it will be optimized again to run perfectly on your PC. One copy of the game. Similar to what they're doing now with, what you can do through the Microsoft or Xbox Store. with their digital copies and whatnot. But that is probably the one feature I find to be very fascinating. The fact that you have one game that can be played across potentially 3 generations of consoles and PCs and all that other stuff. So it's very interesting. No real word yet on how they're going to perform Xbox backwards compatibility. They do have some updates coming up for games, or what is it called? The
Project X Cloud.
not XCloud, no, the Xbox, the Xbox service for all your games that you pay $10 a month for.
Oh,
Game Pass.
PC,
Game
the Game
Pass.
Pass.
Game Pass.
Yeah,
I had a
Xbox
brain
Game Pass.
fart. They say that's still going to be more that's going to be even more prominent than ever, and it's probably going to be their go-to thing of choice moving forward. I didn't really read up too much on the PS5, but people are now saying straight up, oh, it looks like it's going to be even more powerful than the next gen Xbox, which I didn't get a chance to read and confirm that, but who knows. So, what are your thoughts, Mark, on that you have this cross-generational package with one single game?
So I kind of actually want to take a second to talk about what teraflops are, just so we have an understanding of what that means. So a flop is essentially, because everything in computing language is fucking stupid.
Oh yeah.
A flop basically is a short form for a floating point calculation. What that means is the calculations that a chipset can perform. Now, floating point is kind of a mathematical term for real numbers, which includes all values, including integers, decimal point numbers, irrational numbers, so on and so on and so forth. From a computational standpoint, you can think of a floating point calculation as any calculation that uses floating point numbers. The more flops that something can do, the more processes it can run, the more complex processes it can run, the more equations a processor can solve, essentially. So the higher your flop count is, the more stuff that you can compute, the more equations you can complete in real time. Essentially, think about it as the more processes a game can run simultaneously. So the higher your flop count is, the more complex your games can be from a functional perspective, from an aesthetic perspective, and so on. This is kind of a more useful metric than the megahertz / gigahertz of processors, because we've kind of hit the upward maximum for what an individual processor can handle without getting to a point where miniaturization is a thing, and we haven't figured out how to do that in the tech sphere to the extent that we could do Blade Runner and shit. So what they're kind of doing now is they're just putting together like 6 different processors, 8 different processors, 10 different processors, 12 different processors, and that's increasing the amount of flops that can be performed at one time. This isn't quite the same amount of progress as it used to be when we went from 8 to 16-bit to 32-bit to 64-bit to 128-bit and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see more realistic rendering as teraflops improve, as the value of teraflops improve, because a game can essentially handle more things simultaneously. So you can get into a situation where you can more realistically render pores on a person's face. You can more realistically render individual strands of hair on a person's head, because the processor is capable of performing more calculations. It is in turn capable of rendering more stuff simultaneously, is the simplest way to look at that. 12 teraflops is fucking huge.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I think the Xbox Series X that they have now, or the Xbox One Series X, the whatever the fuck you want to call it, like the newest one, the one that I have.
The one, yeah.
Yeah, specifically the re-released one that they did like last year,
Xbox One
with the
X.
higher processing power. Yeah, the Xbox One X, whatever. That's
Scarlet.
that can handle 6 teraflops. So you're effectively doubling the processing power of what is currently the most powerful gaming processor on the console market.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what they're kind of looking to do here is we're looking to get shit as photorealistic as possible.
Right.
The expense on that is probably going to be huge. Like, I would not be surprised if we saw like $500 consoles.
Yeah, I'm almost
No,
expecting
for
it.
sure.
Yeah. So I don't really have an opinion on it yet, just because we're not really going to see what the maximum upward capabilities are on that until the second generation of games comes out. But I mean, from the small amount of tech stuff that we've seen already, it looks pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hellblade 2 looks amazing if that is all in to be believed as in-game engine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I mean,
if that's
I've been
really the
learning
case,
a
I
lot
was
of shit.
fooled.
Oh yeah, that's what they were. I don't know if that's the case definitively, but I think that was the implication. But it's like, I've been learning a lot about this kind of stuff because, like, I kind of came into it with, an older gamer's mindset. I was like, why the fuck do you need it to be higher than 60 frames per second? And no, it actually turns out that, like, the higher the frame rate is, the smoother stuff appears.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a maximum upward limit beyond which going too high on your frame rates no longer matters, but 120 frames per second is not it. It's 60 frames per second is generally considered to be the default that we expect games to do at this point, or at least that, like the tech heavy folks expect games to do at this point. But like 120 frames per second looks fucking nuts in comparison. Like, if you have never seen it, do yourself a favor, get like some kind of a, if you can get a game that can do it, I want to say like Rocket League can support it. Like, do it, like expose yourself to it in some form or fashion. I don't think you get quite the same experience of watching it in like a high quality YouTube video, but it's probably close enough comparison that so long as your display quality is high definition and shit, you can roughly approximate it. It is different. It is noticeably different.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think it's kind of important that, like, we sort of acknowledge, like, it's going to make games look better to a certain extent, but it's also going to mean the games can handle more shit. So the games that we're playing now can handle more animations, more fluid animations. So even if you're not necessarily improving the overall graphical quality of a game, you can potentially improve the frame rate. You can potentially add in more stuff in the background. You can potentially make some of the animations more fluid, even like with current generation engines.
Right.
So, outside of that, though, I mean, back to my question, what did you think about in regards to like the cross generational play with being able to play Halo Infinite on your Xbox One X, your PC, and your Xbox Series X, all interchanging and optimizing to the system's specific hardware?
I mean, we've kind of already seen that in other games, like Final Fantasy XI.
Yeah.
I played that on PS2.
But
and
at the
on
same
PC.
time, though, that's a game that you had to buy separately for each individual console, and it had to be optimized there. What Microsoft is doing and saying is that, okay, you buy this one game digitally through us, and we will determine the system that you're playing it on, and it will be auto optimized for that system. So if you only have an Xbox One X, it's going to play on the Xbox One X. But if you decide to migrate to your Xbox Series X, it's going to become a whole different experience, apparently, because of the better hardware.
Sure, but like it's not the exact same game.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, in theory, it is and it isn't. Like, you're getting a completely different visual experience based on the system that you're actually playing on.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, not
something
even that. Like, just looking at something that goes between the Xbox Series, the Xbox One, the Xbox X, and the PC, there's going to be like 3 different operating systems that it's going to have to communicate with.
Right.
Like, otherwise, it's basically just going to kind of like they're kind of sort of looking at it from the perspective of there are universal things that we can do with the code, but there's going to be different stuff frameworking it, for lack of a better way of being able to explain it. The engine that's running it is going to be functionally the same. The tech behind it will be functionally the same, but there will be a different version for the PC, for the Xbox X, Series X, and for the Xbox One, just because from a back-end software perspective, there has to be. You have to code it to be able to do that in a certain way. But it's still all fundamentally similar tech under the hood. Like, everything is still running on, hypothetically, the Unreal Engine. So it's just a matter of what texture pack does it push out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
Like, I don't think it particularly matters very much as it relates to being able to play between the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X, because that's short-term planning.
Right.
The general idea there is that they're probably within 5 years. Within 5 years, they'll decommission the Xbox One. So this is kind of a case of we're making games on both of these platforms for now. In like 3 to 5 years, we're not going to be anymore. So it's kind of a case of like the platforms are just able to. Right, the platforms are capable of talking to one another. This isn't dramatically different from the PlayStation Vita being able to talk to the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4.
Right.
Because, they're all in the same general family of technology.
Right. I think the thing that excites me the most, and I think the thing that I think needs to be talked about a bit more in terms of how is that going to work, is what about the previous libraries? What about Xbox games on Xbox Series X? What about Xbox 360 games on Xbox Series X? The backwards compatibility that we were promised with Xbox One that we still haven't seen a full library of compatibility with. I feel like that's really the question that has to be answered. And it's the same question that's being asked of Sony with PS5. Hey, is the PS5 going to be able to play PS1 games and PS2 games? Because there's plenty of games that you can't get through through PlayStation Now and through
the PlayStation
like
Store
emulated game. Yeah, in the store itself, there's no emulated versions of a lot of these games. Like, there's old classics and old games on these systems that people really still want to play, but they have to keep these older generation systems, the controllers, the memory cards, the power adapters, all for these systems, because this is really the only way to play a lot of these games. So it becomes interesting in the idea of, well, is Halo 1, 2, and 3 going to be playable, or are we all just going to be playing Master Chief Collection at that point? Because obviously we know that there's a reason why that was released that way, is so that they didn't have to worry about backwards compatibilitying the whole Halo collection again individually. It's already in the MCC, so why would you worry about having all the older versions of it anyway? There's just not an optimization there, and the game doesn't play as well as it used to. So it's like there are still a lot of other games that you could think about putting in that kind of a light. And it's like, well, yeah, I'd like to be able to play Marvel vs. Capcom from my 360 library of games without having to worry about not being able to find a physical copy because that doesn't exist. But hey, what are you going to do?
Or being able to play a game that, is no longer available due to certain copyright issues, like, Ninja Turtles in Manhattan or whatever it's called.
Well, that game's crap, but yeah.
Actually, I enjoy it. But But like, or Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3, which was pulled because certain characters are no longer.
Well, Marvel license,
Yeah,
yeah.
Marvel license, yeah.
I was going to say, wait a minute, which Ninja Turtles game are we shitting on here?
Mutants in Manhattan. It was the Platinum one that came out a couple of years ago that got instantly pulled because Nickelodeon said, that's our license.
Oh yeah, I didn't
that's
think
when the license.
much of that
That's
game.
when the license got changed hands and it had to be pulled.
Yeah, I didn't think particularly much of that game, so that's fine. You can feel free to shit on that game.
I mean, I enjoy it, but
the only way that game was actually even. No, the only reason that game was actually fun because
you can enjoy that game if you enjoy that game, that's fine. I'm just saying I'm not going to fight that particular argument because I was not particularly impressed by that game. If you liked that game, I'm not even going to make a joke about it's okay to be wrong. I'm not going to fight strenuously against it because I didn't give a shit about it.
I mean, if I'm really going to play a game like that, I'm just going to go back and play Transformers Devastation. Because me Grimlock, me Smash.
You do that. I mean, it's still a good game too. So,
well,
but now let's talk about the other spectrum of the upcoming console war. I guess, can we even call it a console war anymore? I mean, it seems like everybody is trying to do something differently. Sony's like the only company that's coming out and saying, "Hey, you know what? We're just going to be a dedicated game system." With a little bit of media support. And Microsoft is like, hey, I want to be your everything. And Nintendo's just like, we just play games.
Well, Microsoft has deviated a lot of that since the original release of the Xbox, the Xbox One. With, the TV, sports TV, sports TV thing, to, like, completely just shutting down Kinect support and removing all the voice activations. There's no HDMI pass-through on the Series X. That was the first thing that people noticed. Is, hey, that pass-through that they were super all about when the Xbox One came out is gone. It doesn't exist. And a lot of people were like, oh, hey, maybe Microsoft actually learned their lesson and aren't actually going to try to like push you towards one specific thing or another. But on the flip side, you've also got to think about like, are we really going to care about it being a multimedia system? Because Phil Spencer's come out a couple of times recently, and he's like, we're all about the games. We're all about the gamer. We're all going to be about compatibility and having, fun with video games. That's why we're doing this thing with the Games Pass and why you have all these games on Xbox One and on PC because of the Games Pass and games. So, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter what system you play on because I think a lot of gamers at this point are they're old enough now to be educated to basically be like, if I'm going to play a game, I'm playing the game because it's the game that I'm playing. I don't care what system it's on. I just want to play the game. If it happens to be that I can only play it on Xbox, then I play it on Xbox, except for the fact that it's probably also going to be on PC because Windows 10 is a thing, but hey, what are you going to do? But at the same time, if it's only going to be on Switch, which, let's be honest, like, that's pretty much only going to be, like, second-party games. And then you've got, like, PlayStation with, like, its exclusives, because, yeah, that's a thing. So, I don't know. It's about the games, not the systems anymore. So to call it a console war is kind of just a matter of how much money are you willing to spend on what game platforms you're actually going to be playing a lot of these games on. Because let's be honest, Microsoft is Microsoft, and they're going to eventually make PC versions of all of the games that come out on Xbox One going forward, except for games that are specifically locked to the actual console, which is not going to be a ton. So I don't know. It's going to be weird to see what happens in this next generation of hardware, because Microsoft understands that it's competing with the PC market, and it's trying to do everything it can to integrate the PC gameplay ability with the Xbox gameplay ability. Sony, on the other hand, is pretty much like, well, it's PlayStation. You know who we are. Fuck you. And Nintendo is Nintendo. They just released Animal Crossing, and literally everyone lost their fucking minds. But hey, whatever, you do you, right?
Yeah, Nintendo is playing a very different game from everybody else. And that's fine. It's just Nintendo is playing a very different game from everybody else.
Right, and it works for Nintendo because it's Nintendo. They don't need to play the same game as everybody else because, let's be honest, it's Nintendo. They know the
And
market share that they have, and they know the market that they're marketing to. So for them, it's not that big of a deal to basically say, hey, look, you can play Dragon Ball and Animal Crossing and Pokemon and Fire Emblem all on this one cool handheld system. Oh, by the way, Joy-Con drift is still a thing, but don't worry about that. That's what Pro controllers are for at $59.99 per unit.
yeah, the kind of game that Nintendo is playing is one all about like, you know what, we do one thing and we're just going to keep doing that one thing and hope to God it continues to sell well. Whereas Microsoft or Sony, if for whatever reason, shit hits the fan, they have fallbacks. They'll just go back into whatever it was they were doing beforehand. Sony has everything from their music to movies to their home entertainment series, all that stuff. Microsoft, they own the computer world. So like it's just going to be a tiny dent for them. Nintendo, all they have is video games. All they have is Pokemon, Mario, Animal Crossing, etc.
They can go back to making playing cards. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And toys. I mean that's
Yeah.
don't pay you a
I mean,
coin,
And novelty code hangers.
and Anyway, I feel like I'm just gonna kind of like end with this is like consoles are consoles, be it a PC, a PlayStation, an Xbox, a Switch, whatever it is that you use, whatever it is that you decide that you're going to use, that's great because that's the system that you want to play those games on. And as we know, we're in a position now where a lot of first party exclusive games don't exist anymore. A lot of these games are getting moved to other systems or being released on PC. I think Daemon X Machina being on the Switch for as long as it was, now being released on PC is a big deal. There was another one. What was it? There was like another one recently, and I can't remember. A bunch of people got super salty about it. That was like, it was on place. Oh, right, Horizon Zero Dawn. Like that PC, game is Horizon Zero Dawn, which was originally an exclusive PlayStation 4 game, is now coming out on Steam on PC, and a bunch of like PlayStation fanboys got super crotchety about that. So it's like, oh, I'm never going to support Sony again because you fucked up and you said it was exclusive and that no one else would ever get this game. And now it's coming out on PC. You guys lied to us. And it's like, this was inevitable. And the game is like, what, 4 years old now?
Yeah.
So, like, that's not unheard of in the gaming world at this point to have a game that's been on the system for 4 years be out on a different system. I mean, how long did it take for Kingdom Hearts to finally come to Xbox? Mind you, it was only Kingdom Hearts 3, but what are you going to do?
Right.
The idea is the same with like Final Fantasy VII Remake starting out on PS4 is eventually going to be released on PC and Xbox Series X at some point in the next year after the initial release of the PlayStation 4 version comes out. Like, they had already announced that it was going to be on multiple systems, but you're going to be able to play it first on PS4. So it's like, whatever. At this point, if you're still trying to play the console war bandwagon card, then like you need a new bandwagon to be on, because damn, there's so many different ways to play the games that you love. Why can't we just let it be about the games anymore rather than worrying about whether or not I can only play it on one or two consoles? Like, yeah, anyway, fuck the Epic Game Store, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
But hey, you have to play your MechWarrior 5 somehow, right?
I mean, yeah, and I did, and I enjoyed it, and I finished it, and I'm not super worried about it.
You're gonna buy the game when it comes on Steam?
No, I don't. I have unless there's some specific issues that need to be addressed about MechWarrior 5 before I'll actually try to pick it back up again. One of which is how the actual spawns of specific mechs happen during certain types of missions. But yeah, like if they can address some of those specific issues,
and moaning about that game a lot.
Yeah, I've been hearing that. Oh no, Jan's gone again. She froze, at least on a happy face. But yeah, you have any final thoughts, Mark, before we end the night about Microsoft and next gen and all that fun stuff?
I'm playing Street Fighter V Championship Edition. It's not bad.
Yeah. Guild's pretty fucking awesome. So is Seth.
I bought it. I just haven't reinstalled it yet.
We might actually have to change the name of the award this year. We might actually have to nominate it.
Okay.
Best fighting game that isn't Ninja Turtles.
That isn't Street Fighter ?
Oh.
I mean, we know why Jan's playing it. Obviously.
What?
We know why you're playing it. Obviously.
Playing what? Street Fighter?
Oh yes. Karen Kanzuki.
Oh yeah.
Wow, Mark did that laugh like perfectly.
Well, I'm playing as her right now, so
good.
I'm sorry that you mastered that laugh.
It took me like 5 seconds. It's not that hard, Robert.
It's basically you just expressing a laughter as oh ho 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 ho. That's not that difficult. You just got to put the intonation in to make it work.
All right, do it yourself, Jan. I want to hear it.
Oh!
See, I already heard her do that laugh, so I knew that was going to happen.
I'm sorry, Mark, but yours was the better of the laugh, replicating her.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I mean hers was better. I think mine was just creepier.
Well, yeah.
I will say I do appreciate that they just give you all the fucking costumes.
They give you a lot. The only thing you don't get are the Capcom Pro Tour stages and Capcom Pro Tour outfits, but you can
it's like
get all
4 outfits, and I'm like, it's like 4 outfits, and I'm like, I don't want these outfits. They're stupid looking. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. The stages are cool, and I'll probably get those eventually, but like everything else is like, I got everything else I wanted out of it, so it seems good.
Yeah, I'm just testing out all of the new characters because I only got like the default Street Fighter V, so it's like it's all new to me.
Fair.
So you got like the first 3 seasons post-release of content.
Oh yeah,
and it's coming all at once.
I suddenly have everything. And it's just okay.
Well,
I'm like, wait, there's a demon version of Ryu? What is this nonsense?
Oh yeah,
Ani Ryu? Or Evil Ryu?
No, Kage.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Ani Akuma, but that's what they re-released.
Well, Akuma,
Akuma looks like a goddamn lion, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
we gotta remember this is like 10 years after the events of Street Fighter. Street Fighter 4 in story-wise comes before or after Street Fighter 4 story-wise happens before Street Fighter 3 or after Street Fighter 3?
So the canonical timeline is Street Fighter V is actually taking place after Street Fighter 3, and Street Fighter 4 is after Street Fighter 5.
That makes no sense considering Street Fighter 5, Ryu is appearing much older than he does in 4.
Because in 3, he is older than he is in 4. If you remember the original iteration of Street Fighter 3, the very first version, not Second Impact or Third Strike, Ryu and Ken are actually in their 50s, whereas in Street Fighter 4, they're in their early 40s. Street Fighter 5 is a continuation of the Street Fighter 3 storyline.
Yeah, but you also said that 4 took place after 5.
No, I'm sorry, and I apologize. It's actually 4, then 3, then 5.
Okay, yeah, that's what I asked, and yeah, okay, there we go.
You
confused me there when you said that, so I was like, okay.
You confused me. Stop it.
No, you stop it.
No, you.
I will fucking turn this podcast around right now.
No, I'll turn it around.
Ulu.
Woo-woo. Woo-woo.
Yeah,
what's this?
It's I think technically it goes 2, 4, 3, 5 in terms of actual storyline timelines, with weird sprinklings of the Alpha series somewhere in the middle between 2 and 3.
Yeah, I know Alpha takes place
4
before
and 3.
2.
Sorry.
Alpha 2, I think, takes place right after Street Fighter 2, and I think Street Fighter Alpha 3 takes place right after 4, I guess, because the storyline seems to line up pretty weird with the events of Street Fighter 2. Like, apparently it seems like it's like, according to some people's storylines, like if you look at Sagat's storyline, he is fighting to leave Shadow Lu.
Yeah.
And
Alpha 3 is in a weird place, sort of between 4 and 3.
Okay. Yeah,
It's like it was like
canon
okay,
is
so
a little jumbled. They need to fix that, if you ask me.
I just read an article that said it's 543. That's wrong. That is actually wrong. 453? No. Again, no. So 3 happens, which is where you get the lead in for a lot of the characters that happen to show up in like 4. But then 5 itself is actually in the actual like timeline of everything, because Laura is actually Sean's older sister. So like 5 technically is happening like, I don't know. It's kind of strange, but like a lot of people say that it's like I don't know. It's Street Fighter. Fuck it. Storyline and fighting games. Fuck me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the baseline is that the only real continuity between 3 and 5 is Laura because of Sean.
Pretty much.
So like that's like your continuity point. Well, that and Karen, but Karen's from Alpha 3, which is a weird sort of offshoot side
Alpha
story.
2.
Well,
For
technically, if you're talking about actual canonical things, Alpha 2 is not a canonical game. 1 and 3 are.
Interesting.
It's like Highlander 2. We don't really question it. It just kind of exists.
And then Highlander 3 happens.
I mean, there's like 4 other Highlander movies and no one really gives a shit.
And then a cartoon series, and then 2 TV series.
But yeah, the baseline is, yeah, that's kind of what it is. But yeah, I mean, we've already decided on like the fact that we're changing the Asshole of the Year award to the PewDiePie award and it's only February, so. Way to go, Felix,
I mean,
you're an asshole.
I mean,
now the fact that he's won it 3
let's
times
wait
in a
another
year.
10 months. Somebody could be worse.
I mean, we technically
We're
already
like
have
6
our first
fucking
potential
masks.
candidate for nominations that I posted earlier.
Look, he put on 6 fucking gas masks, like face masks, started talking in Chinese, waved a Japanese flag, and threw up a fucking like hail sign with his hand fucking straight up in the air. Like all he needed to do was goose step with all that shit on there, and he was just being a fucking wow. I'm done with that kid.
Look, Dr. Disrespect could murder a dog. Okay.
Not
like,
the puppies.
I just want to keep our options open. I don't want it to seem like we're poisoning the well too
Biased.
early. If
being
Dr.
fair.
Disrespect murders a dog, he's got the award, is all I'm saying.
Question: now that the award is named after him, is he no longer eligible to be?
Oh, no.
Oh, fuck no. He is definitely
Because
going
he's literally a shoo-in to win every year.
Named the award after Ric Flair and kept giving the awards to Ric Flair for years. It's the same principle.
Yep.
You know, just because you are the emeritus person who all of this is named after, does not mean that you're not also a continuing piece of shit.
Just because you have 2 Hall of Fame rings doesn't mean you're the goddamn king of everything, buddy.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end our show tonight. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to GVN Live, and we had a wonderful time. Our next episode will be March 11th. So I want to, again, thank you, Jan. New Jan Light. I'm not sure. What do we call this form of you? Just call it Jan? Or Lovely Jan?
Celadon.
Super Saiyan Mark II.
Okay,
Yeah,
that works for me. And then we have, Mark still burning in hell over there. Again, thank you guys so much, and I want to thank everybody a good night. Deuces.
Bye.
Meh.